My name is Emily Kaufman, and this is my call to ministry. I was born and raised in the Wesleyan Church, and I was born and raised in a Christian home. And I remember my sophomore year of high school, it was the first week of school, and I was in this English class, and we had to make these all about me presentations that had information about our future plans and where we wanted to go to college, what we wanted to do when we grew up, and all these things that the sophomores should not know. And I remember filling this thing out, and growing up I had always wanted to be a teacher, and I was filling out what college I wanted to go to, what programs I wanted to study, and this thought occurred to me, and it was like, hey, have I ever asked God if this is what He wants for me, and if we have the same plan? And I hadn't. So I remember sitting in that classroom, and I kind of just shot up a prayer and was like, hey God, this is my plan, let me know when you approve it. And that didn't happen. By November of that year, I had lost all passion for teaching. You could not pay me enough to be a teacher. Just do not want to do it at all. And I remember just feeling really lost and purposeless. But I also remembered that my youth group was going to the Follow Conference in Indianapolis later that December. I started praying that God would speak to me and would lead me and guide me at this conference, and that's exactly what He did. I remember walking into the convention center for the first time and just feeling this presence of love around me, and just feeling the Holy Spirit resting so heavily on the convention center. I remember we're getting ready to start worship, and the worship team starts playing, and the same little voice in my head that said, Emily, you need to pray about this, was the same one that said, Emily, you can do what they're doing. And this just repeatedly kept happening, and I didn't really know what it was at all. I didn't tell anyone about it. And the last night there was an altar call for people who felt called to ministry. I was like, no, that's not me, that's not what's happening here. But in reality, I really was called to ministry. And I remember going into our youth group huddle time, and I remember our district superintendent was in my youth group's huddle time, and for some reason I just kind of spoke up and I said, I think I'm called to worship ministry. And I remember everyone in the room just looking at me more surprised at the fact that I spoke up and vocalized what was going on, rather than the fact that I was called to ministry. It wasn't really a surprise to anyone that I was. And so I've continued to learn what a call to ministry was through this really cool program called Examine. You should totally check it out. That just really helped me learn what it was and how to continue to pursue and obey God during a call to ministry. And that obedience led me to Indiana Wesleyan, and it led me to the current program where I'm able to be educated upon worship and how it looks in a ministerial context. The Lord has greatly shaped my call and my passion through this education. It's just not a desire for me to lead worship, it's also a desire for me to form a congregation through worship. And this is why I feel really called to worship programming and worship curriculum. I would so greatly desire to one day create a curriculum that is able to contextualize the local voice of a congregation, provide evangelism and discipleship through the presentation of elements and sacraments that present practical Christian doctrine and basic biblical literacy, and all of this would be a byproduct of worship, with the hopes of equipping believers to minister in their communities. Through obedience, this call has not just been a circumstance, it's not just been something that I feel compelled to do. It's something that I've learned to love, and it's something that I've learned to just love why God created me for this. I'm just so excited to see how this turns out and how He continues to lead me. So yeah.